All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September public meeting for ANC 5D. We're happy to have you. If you'll give us just a moment as we allow some additional viewers to enter the room, and then we'll work on making sure that our ASL interpreters are situated as well. So give us just a few minutes to handle those logistics and we'll begin the meeting. If you are an ASL interpreter, could you please use the raise hand function? Thank you. Okay, and I do believe we have both ASL interpreters now with us as panelists. Okay, great. All right, so we're ready to begin the meeting. First thing I'd like to do is call the meeting to order. And let's now take a look at the adoption of the agenda as soon as we have our roll call. So 5D01.
Present.
5D02.
Present.
5D03.
Present.
5D04. Okay, Commissioner Black, now I can see you, but I can't hear you. You're gonna have to unmute. Okay, we'll give you a moment to work on the. Okay, got it. All right, you're present. I do see you. All right, 5D05. I'm the commissioner for 5D05, and 5D06 is Commissioner Zachary Hoffman, who resigned from his position as of yesterday. So he will no longer be with us as a commissioner for the rest of this term. And it is too late in the year for an election year to elect a new commissioner to replace him. So that commission will be without representation until January of next year. And 5D07.
Present.
Okay, all right, we do have enough here for a quorum. Now let's move on to a review of the agenda from the meeting minutes, from our June meeting. All right, I move to accept the minutes as submitted. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any abstentions? Okay, all right. So that is approved. Next up, we have our monthly treasurer's report, followed by our quarterly financial report with Commissioner Cobb.
Thanks, Commissioner. We have the monthly reports for June, July, and August because we have not met since June. So for June 2022, we had an opening balance of $45,930.66. Expenditures of $18,774.13 with no income other than a reimbursement for $106. So that gives us a closing balance at the end of June of $27,156.53, which, okay. And then so for July, we had an opening balance of $27,124.95, a change of expenditures of $458.77 for a closing balance of $26,666.18. Last for the monthlies is August, where we had an opening balance of $26,697.76. Two expenditures totaling $61.58 for a closing balance at the end of August of $26,636.18. Now for the quarterly financial report for fiscal year 2022, quarter three. And now remember that the fiscal year starts in October. So the third quarter actually covers April, May, and June. We had an opening balance of $55,962.32, total receipts of $106, and total disbursements of $28,911.79 for an ending balance at the end of the third quarter of $27,156.53.
Okay, any questions, comments, discussion from the commissioners? Okay, all right, and then I'm sure, Stephen, if you want to go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Yep, I move that we approve the quarterly financial report as it appears now.
Okay, and I second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thanks so much, everyone. And next up, I don't see anyone here just yet from MPD, but if you are here from MPD and you'll use the raise hand function, or if I'm just missing you and you're ready to give the public safety report, if you'll go ahead. And I'm checking the attendees now to make sure I'm not missing you. Okay. But I don't see any raised hands. Okay. Next up, do we have anyone with us from the mayor's office? And same thing, I'll check the attendees, but I don't see anyone here from the mayor's office. All right, and then do we have anyone from the Ward 5 council member's office?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right, if you'll go ahead with your update.
Thanks, Commissioner. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. I hope you had a great summer. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm not going to turn my camera on. But again, great to see you guys, and I hope your summer went well. I have 3 updates today. The first is that our office is partnering with the DC Business Gun Violence Prevention Coalition to plan a Ward 5 Jobs Not Guns Summit and Recruitment Fair. You may have heard of this fair. It was held 2 times this year in other wards, and it was really successful. And the purpose is simply to provide an opportunity for Ward 5 residents to be connected with jobs from city-wide agencies, corporations, general contractors, developers, etc., who are seeking employees right now. And we plan on tentatively holding this on October 12th. October 12th at Turkey Thicket in the morning. We don't have an exact time yet, but once that's finalized, our team will send that out to each of the ANC commissioners. I believe each of the ANC commissioners have been reached out to by the planning committee, but if not, feel free to let me know if you would like to be further involved with either planning or outreach. Just let me know. And then I'd
like to take that opportunity to volunteer.
Oh, great. Thank you, Commissioner Moore. I note that right now.
Okay.
And again, if anyone else is interested, let me know. Second, I just wanted to say that you may have seen that this summer, our team conducted a number of community safety walks with residents, some of the ANCs in the ward, Department of Behavioral Health. I believe MPD was at some of those, and just trying to bring resources to the community. And we're still open to doing additional community safety walks. If other areas of Ward 5 are interested, you could also let me know. And leading up to the first day of school, we also visited a lot of schools to check on their facility issues and we've been in contact with DGS on outstanding issues with, I know some schools had some HVAC problems this summer. There was some pest control, not having locks on doors and those types of things. So if there are any outstanding issues with schools in your particular area, you could also feel free to let me know that, and we can further connect again with DGS. And then the third item that I have is just that the council recess ends this Thursday. So we will resume legislative meetings starting this Tuesday. And as most of you probably know, these final 4 months will represent the end of council period 24. So there's going to be a lot of bills coming through over the next few months as all the council members try to pass their bills before the end of the year. So if there's anything that you're seeing in bills that might concern you, or that you're just interested in talking with us about before the ledge meeting, you could feel free to let me know. And again, I'll put my email in the chat, which our email addresses did all change to .gov. You may have seen that. So some of the, in case you don't know, our old email was .us, and we still get emails that get sent there, but sometimes we have found cases where they're bouncing back. So just so you know, everyone at the council has .gov emails now.
Okay.
And
All
those
right.
are my updates.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I just had one question in terms of this outreach event for jobs. Are you planning this for some other locations? I guess, really kind of Turkey Thicket is a bit of a lower crime area, than some other parts of Ward 5. And I'd like to see some of those outreach events potentially be at some of the areas, along Benning Road, different locations in Trinidad or Ivy City where we know, guys are hanging out to kind of be more direct about engaging with them about job opportunities.
I know there's outreach toward those parts of the ward, but I can take that feedback back that you'd like to see an intentional effort to be located there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then we do have a special council guest, and Declan Falls from Chairman Mendelson's office. I don't know if you have any updates or if you just want to kind of introduce yourself, but feel free to share with the community.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, commissioners and members of the community. My name is Declan. I work in Chairman Mendelson's office as a part of his constituent services team. I wanted to be here to introduce myself as well as give a couple of updates, and I will put my contact information in the chat as soon as I'm done. So if you have any questions or comments for the chairman, please feel free to reach out anytime. Or if there's anything that our constituent services team can help with, I'm happy to help with that as well. A couple of updates. As Ms. Crawford already said, the council's currently on recess, but is starting up again shortly. And the committee of the whole, which Chairman Mendelson chairs, currently has around 15 hearings scheduled for this fall. One of the chairman's big focuses at the moment is education and improving the quality of education in the district. So this Friday, he's holding a hearing on the Schools First in Budgeting Act, which has the goal of stabilizing school budgets. If you're interested in learning more about the act or the hearing, you can visit the chairman's website, chairmanmendelson.com, to read about it. The chairman also asked me to mention that last year, the council passed the Paid Parity Act, which distributes funds to early childhood educators. And educators are eligible right now for a payment of up to $14,000. So if you are an early childhood educator, or if you have friends or family who are, please visit the website that I'm going to put in the chat for OSSI to see if you're eligible for that program. I believe that's only open for about another week or so. So definitely visit the website and see if you're eligible if you are an early childhood educator. Those are my only updates at the moment. But again, I'll put my contact info in the chat as well as the link for that OSSI program. And I'm happy to take questions, and please feel free to reach out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And I know, Angel, I do see your comment. I know that was for Donnie, but I'll go ahead and actually, I see that you're on the line to speak. So I'll let you go ahead and speak out your comments and questions. You should be able to just unmute yourself and share at this point, Ms. White, if you want to go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Hi, my name is Angel White. I thought it was great that they were having a job fair, but at Turkey Thicket on the 30th. But just to let everyone know, early voting will begin on October 31st. And so seeing how maybe that could, maybe if they could tie, have someone there to do, voter registration or explain the process. I don't know if they had thought of that for that. And I definitely would be interested in doing outreach, volunteering with outreach to the community for the job fair. The other question I had was, what does the chairman viewpoint, or I don't know how DC is handling the issue of food insecurity in schools, since the monies that were provided through the COVID funding will end. I think it ends this September. Is that person still from Mendelson's office
Yes.
available?
I am here. I apologize. I don't have an answer offhand to that question, but I did just put my email address in the chat. If you could send me an email about it, I'm happy to talk with our staff and follow up with you as soon as I can.
Okay, because I know that, during
Ms. White, if you're still speaking, we can't hear you. Okay. All right. I think we lost our connection with Ms. White, unfortunately.
I was just gonna add, I don't know, sorry to interrupt Commissioner Moore.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I misspoke, but I said October 12th in the morning, so not the 30th.
Okay, great. Thank you for making that correction. And then I think everyone is dropping their contact information in the chat. And if you could just make sure that's going out to everyone on the everyone setting. For some people who are in the audience trying to participate in the chat, I'm not sure why you're unable to. I did see those notes, but we'll look into that after the meeting since this is a short one. So we have two questions here. Tung says, question for the chairman's office. What is the current status of the Metro for DC bill? Is there any chance it will be out of committee the next few months?
Thanks for that question. So the Metro for DC bill, I know the chairman is a co-introducer of that bill and supports it. I believe it had a public hearing this past February. I'm not sure what the status of the bill is and if it's up this fall, but I'm happy to look into that. If you could also reach out to me, I can get an answer on that and email or call you and discuss it further.
Okay. All right. And then Rogers, typically your question would be one that we would save for the community comments and concerns section. But I can tell you right now, since you may have missed the beginning of the meeting, that the commissioner for 5D06 resigned. So there's no one to direct your question to on the panel for tonight. But if you'll send that question to 5d@anc.dc.gov, we'll work amongst ourselves to see about getting you an answer. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone who just presented. We're going to go ahead and move forward to the next section of our meeting. And we will, I think Ms. White just reconnected. Is there a list? Okay. So Angel White, the rest of her question was for Chairman Mendelson's office. Is there a listing of the schools in Ward 5 that detail the air quality for schools with funding provided through COVID funds.
I am not sure if there is a listing, but again, if you could send me an email about it, I can ask our staff tomorrow and have an answer for you tomorrow.
Okay, all right, well, great, thank you for that. And then just make sure to check the chat for those email addresses that folks are referencing. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Thank you, Declan.
Thank you.
Oh. All right, next up on our agenda, we have requested presentations. First up, we have an update on the Langston Master Plan with Brodrick Spencer and his team. Mr. Spencer, do you need to share your screen to show us anything?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Great.
And then I'm going to go ahead and give you co-host status so you can share with us.
Okay. No, I also have called in my phone, so I know before I've had to had to work to figure out which one of me is actually presenting. So I apologize.
That's fine. We'll go ahead and give you a minute there.
Can you see the screen?
We see it coming up. Yes.
Okay, great. First time's a charm. Well, thank you, commissioners, for having me back. I believe I've spoken with you a couple of times in anticipation of this planning effort starting. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of introducing myself to, my name is Brodrick Spencer. I'm an urban designer with the DC Housing Authority, and I'm the project manager from the agency side for this planning effort. And then I have a team member from the consultant team here, Scott, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Archer, an architect and planner from Byrne Bell Architects, and we're supporting DCHA in this effort.
So tonight, this is kind of just like an overview of where we are with the project itself. So introducing the planning team, talking more about what is the Langston Terrace Revitalization and Sustainability Plan, when will this be happening, why this planning effort now, and how can residents and neighbors be involved. And something that we want to kind of emphasize and have emphasized is that this is, while it's planning for the Langston Terrace residents, we really see this as a community planning effort. So we want to have involvement from residents in the nearby neighborhood as well. So who is this? Who is on the planning team? So this is a resident-led planning effort. So we have, us, DCHA, along with a resident advisory council, Langston Terrace neighbors, working together with Langston Terrace residents to kind of go through this planning process. So we have around that the larger and kind of broader planning team. And as Scott mentioned, he's with Byrne Bell. Scott, if you want to give a little bit more background about your firm, but for all intents and purposes, Scott and his team are kind of the lead consultant for this planning effort.
Yes, and we're architects and planners here in Washington, D.C., and with a special emphasis in historic preservation. We have a larger team with sustainability engineers, landscape architects, energy engineers, as well as cost estimating and site and survey.
Yeah, so we are kind of doing an all-encompassing kind of sustainability kind of design planning effort for this property. We also have what we call the Resident Advisory Council. So this is made up of resident leaders, on-site service providers, and also Commissioner Blacknell, who has graciously agreed to be involved and at least kind of being involved from the neighborhood kind of perspective. So we have worked with the Resident Advisory Council since the beginning of this planning effort. We have met and will continue to meet with them regularly throughout the planning process. This is kind of a way to have resident feedback and input between the larger resident meetings that we'll discuss in a moment. This is kind of our thinking, kind of intent was to keep in the legacy of residents' leadership being involved with Langston Terrace itself. So what is the Revitalization and Sustainability Plan? Well, this is part of our long-term DCHA's long-term strategy for the rehabilitation of Langston Terrace. So this consists of 3 parts. The first part that has already begun and is ongoing is the Make Ready campaign. So this was unit renovations, right-sizing units. So looking at moving residents into a unit, like say if you're living by yourself and have a 3-bedroom apartment, we want to move you into a 1-bedroom apartment. And also addressing environmental and mechanical issues. So basically kind of stabilizing the units on the property. The next part, the planning effort that we're currently going through, is the second piece of that. So that's working with residents over the next year to identify improvements they'd like to see to the landscape, working with residents to get their ideas on making Langston Terrace a more sustainable community, and also looking at ideas that residents have on how to modernize units. Langston Terrace being built in the 1930s, kind of living conditions or living layouts have, I think, changed as buildings have gotten modernized. So we want to come back, look at Langston Terrace and see how we can modernize those units for our residents. And then the third piece would be a Rad Conversion through the Section 8 process. So this is basically a financing tool that would allow us to rehabilitate the property, repair and replace aging systems, and fund major building improvements that would have no resident displacement, and that would also respect the historic kind of legacy and fabric of the property. So basically, the revitalization and sustainability plan will create a blueprint for the rehabilitation of the property. And then the next step after that would be the actual rehabilitation process through the Rad Conversion. So here you can kind of see, the three pieces, the larger strategy, but we also have separate projects that are also ongoing currently or have occurred at the property. And this is all with the intent of all these planning efforts and kind of input that residents gave before are kind of recognized and incorporated into this planning effort. So, residents have given feedback before, so we want to make sure that they feel that their input for something that might be addressed to this planning effort kind of carries through. So we've had a heating plant feasibility study. So looking at the corner on Benning and 21st, that was basically looking at the potential for the heating plant, again, serving as power generation for the Langston Terrace units. We are also doing a feasibility study that's looking at the structural integrity of the building, recognizing that we might have to look at environmental remediation depending on, the conditions inside, and also think if there are options that we have, programmatic options that we have. So looking at potential new uses, either adjacent to or within the heating plant itself. And then we also have the Langston Addition Site and Stormwater Improvement Project. So this is technically separate from the Langston Terrace planning effort, but because of the adjacency of the properties, we're kind of thinking about this as one kind of coherent campus. And this is basically looking at unit renovations, mechanical and electrical improvements, but also how we can improve site and public safety through the landscaping and kind of recreation opportunities that have that present themselves. So again, kind of making sure that current and previous planning efforts and work gets folded into this planning effort to make sure we can properly move forward as a cohesive kind of project. So when will this project be occurring? Well, we've already just kicked off this planning effort this summer. So we had a kickoff meeting with residents. That was really meant to introduce the project, get their initial thoughts, questions, concerns, and kind of get them, excited and interested and involved in the planning effort. So the team, Scott and his team have taken that feedback from that kickoff meeting and are currently working on concepts that we will be presenting to residents later this fall. That's basically taking their input, their ideas, and kind of creating initial designs and layouts for the campus itself, for units, and thinking about the sustainability measures that we can also take. And that will be ongoing as we have, as I mentioned before, previous and current work. So Make Ready work will continue, the Langston Additions work will continue, and we will also have separate projects starting up. One in particular being the DOE Energy Grant project. So this will actually be a way that we can ensure that some of the ideas that residents have in this planning effort can actually be funded and implemented. So that's an important piece for us to make sure that the effort and work that residents are putting into this actually bears fruit. So I would now hand it off to Scott to kind of walk through the rest of what we've done so far with this planning effort.
Yes, thanks, Brodrick. And as Brodrick mentioned, this will serve as a blueprint for the future of Langston Terrace and We really want to capture resident and community vision for the future of this place. And it's such an incredible legacy and cultural heritage that we want to make sure that we're capturing your vision for the future. This project is on the National Register of Historic Places and was listed in 1987. So these buildings are protected and won't be torn down, but they can be updated to meet resident needs. And we're thinking a lot about the landscape and the larger site issues as well. As I mentioned, this is a really important project. This was designed in the 30s by an African-American architect, Mr. Hilliard Robinson, and an African-American landscape architect, Mr. David Williston. Both of them were really incredible designers in this period of time, and it became the first public housing project built in DC and the second in the nation, and really carries on that legacy today. And it's important to carry on the legacy of affordability. This was one of the most affordable places for especially African-American families to live in Washington, DC when it was built. And we want to make sure that we're partnering with DCHA to carry on that legacy into the future and protect it as we think about the next 70 or 100 years of this campus. And as you can see in the map, the red outline shows the Langston Terrace proper, as well as Langston Additions. So anybody that's living nearby or part of this community, we want to hear your input as well. Your voice is important, and please reach out to us or the RAC, the Resident Advisory Council, or DCHA with any ideas you have. And on the next slide, we, as Brodrick mentioned, had our first meeting with the residents on July 25th and started to get some of these ideas, and we've been documenting what we've heard. And some of these now are turning into concepts. And you are welcome to join us on September 27th, on Tuesday in a couple weeks. We'll have a couple different times from noon to 2 at Langston Terrace campus, or from 4 to 6 at Langston Terrace. So feel free to drop in. You don't have to stay the whole time and give us your ideas. We hope to see you there. And you can contact Brodrick at any time. His email is listed here on the screen.
And I'll also put that in the chat as well.
And so thank you to the commissioners and all the attendees for your time. And we hope to see you on the 27th.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And if you could go ahead and stop sharing. What we'll do is go through some of the questions first from commissioners, and then we'll move on to public questions. So first off, commissioners, any questions or comments regarding this presentation from you all? Okay, I do have one comment, which is that I think for the adjacent property owners, as well as for the neighbors at Langston Additions, one big problem that we're having is that rear alley between H and Bennett and the Langston Additions properties at 21st, and just kind of looking into extending that alley so that there's an actual two-ended alley and not a dead end back there to help improve some of the sanitation issues for all three of those blocks. So I did want to say that publicly as one of the primary suggestions that I've had and that I've heard from residents, would alleviate that front trash pickup on 21st Street for Langston Additions. And it would really help with some of the rat and trash issues in that alley for the other two blocks. So I'm hoping that you guys will make note of that.
So I will say that that is something that the residents, that we heard from the residents as well. And we also made sure to include the Langston Additions residents at that kickoff meeting as well. But that was something that we heard. We also heard about the alley pathway between 24th, the corner of H, going to the school. So I think that and site security and safety is definitely something that we've heard loud and clear from the residents and are factoring into our planning efforts.
Okay, all right, great, thank you for that. So let's move on to public questions.
Yes,
Oh, okay, Commissioner Black
Yeah,
now.
I also brought that up too, because I have been attending a lot of the meetings, even though that's public housing, I can suggest things and everything, but that has been brought up several times at the meeting about that little dead end. I call it dead end alleyway, because that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've
Okay.
I also will say that we've spoken with our DCHA police as well to kind of see if they're have any ideas, if they are working with MPD to kind of have anything in the works, working for the larger neighborhood at large. So I think that's definitely, as I said, something that we've kind of internalized as being important for the residents and are definitely making sure we are addressed with this.
Yeah, and then the only other suggestion I had is maybe some flyers
Mhm.
for the adjacent properties as well. I know, housing handles a lot of the communications for the residents at Langston, but the Bennett Place and H Street neighbors too.
That's a great idea. And we do have a flyer that we've produced for distribution for ourselves, but I guess we can also talk offline about if it would work to have that distributed to some neighboring residents. So
Okay.
that's definitely something we were looking to kind of invite. So
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Now let's go ahead, unless we have anything else from commissioners. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to some of our public questions. On Jail White, have environmental health concerns been considered from COVID to air pollution to noise pollution for residents and those homeowners surrounding the renovation/construction site?
So I will say that sustainability and kind of energy efficiency is also built into this funding effort. So that's looking at how we can improve indoor air quality for residents, for children. So I think that's definitely something that we're looking at as being important to this plan. In terms of the kind of construction piece, I think that is kind of a ways off in terms of when that would happen. It would all be mostly end unit renovation, actually completely end unit renovations, because we can't actually change the facade of the buildings. And I know from our kind of initial planning efforts, we are looking to do it in a way that reduces the number of phases, so we can, I guess to your point, reduce noise and disruption for residents. So we've actively considered kind of that piece once we get to the actual rehabilitation of the properties to make sure we can do it in a way that's not disruptful to residents. So.
Okay, all right. And then her next question, when and or where will the Langston residents be relocated during the construction?
So that the residents would not be relocated off-site. It would be all on-site relocations. That's actually occurring. Part of the reason we're doing the Make Ready campaign, the unit renovations, is so we can relocate residents on-site to fixed up units, basically. So that's kind of how it's staged, is you do the Make Ready piece, and then you'll have improved units on the entire property that we can then relocate residents around. So that's kind of the thought of how we would do that. And that, again, the relocation for the Make Ready piece has already started, but the larger rehabilitation of the property, that would be a couple years off. So. Okay.
All right. And then our last question for you all, Skip Keats. Per Langston Terrace, what is an RAD conversion?
Right. So that is a HUD funding mechanism that basically allows for reducing the gap between the rents that DCHA, the agency, gets, and kind of the capital funding that you would need for most of the renovations that we'd be looking to do. It's in broad sense, a funding tool that will reduce the gap that we need to enact the rehabilitation that comes out of this planning effort.
Okay.
It's a very arduous and kind of complicated process, but that is kind of what we've identified as kind of what would work both for the residents and for us moving forward. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate your time. And if you could just drop your contact information into the chat for everyone and make sure that they can, everyone can see that email address and they can reach out to you for additional questions and information. All right, thanks so much. We're gonna actually take a step back in our agenda since we weren't able to have the mayor's office present. We couldn't get them up live, but I think Nokomis has made it to join us this evening. So Mr. Hunter, if you're there and you want to take the floor and let us know what the updates are from the mayor's office.
Yeah, I am here. Thank you for coming back to me. First, I want to say that I hope you all had a great summer break. Now we back, we back out in the community, back in the street. So we was never, we never stopped. We was always out in the community. But so I want to first update you guys on the announcement that the mayor had recently made about the Office of Migrant Service. So last week on Thursday, September the 8th, the mayor has announced that she is establishing an Office of Migrant Services to provide support and services to migrants being bused to Washington, D.C. from Texas and Arizona. To establish the office, the mayor had declared a public emergency and announced that she would send emergency legislation to the Council of the District of Columbia to support a new framework. This Office of Migrant Services will be within the Department of Human Services, DHS, and will provide support and services to non-governmental organizations. I would drop the link in the chat for those that is want further update on that. And also I want to, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been caught up on this announcement, but back in August 22nd, the mayor and Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, had urged residents to take advantage of two important home ownership programs, which is the Home Purchase the Purchase Assistance Program, which is HPAP, and the Homeowner Assistance Fund, which is HAF. Both programs have date coming up that residents should know about, which is on September the 30th. The district the district foreclosure moratorium will end, but the homeowner who has struggled to keep up with their mortgage and bill payment can get protection from foreclosure if they have applied to HAF by the deadline, which is September the 30th. Additionally, on October the 1st, which will mark the first the start of the new fiscal year, the maximum down payment assistance that residents can receive through HPAP will increase from $80,000 to $202,000. So I would drop the link in the chat for that as well, and you can see the maximum assistance for each household income can receive. And lastly, not least, this Thursday, the mayor will be having her 5th annual maternal and infant summit at the convention center, which will go from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Here they will have breakout discussion, free breakfast, also free lift for those that is concerned about parking or any trouble with traffic. They will have provide free transportation to get there, and I believe back to your destination. Also, yeah, and even if you're not a mom, if you're a woman, feel free to come. They have tons of resources. This would be a great event. I believe we are expecting to have over 1,500 people attending. So I would drop the link in the chat for that. So if you're interested, please register as soon as possible. That would be it for my update, and I would like to open the floor for any additional questions or concerns that you guys may have.
Okay, and first off, before we move to public questions or comments, let's hear from the commissioners.
So Dale, I have a question. Well, really, it's not a question, it's a concern. Hello?
Yes, can you say that again, please?
This is Commissioner Blacknell, Hunter. I have a concern.
Yes.
Okay, that the concern I said it's a reference to Spingarn. Now the money has been allocated for Spingarn. Why haven't they worked on the school yet? No, I'm serious. Why haven't they worked on the school yet? That school within the 2 week span, that school has been vandalized twice. I have pictures. I have been down there and everything. They've been coming out, they've been boarding up the windows, they've been welding the doors back, and whoever's doing it has the equipment to unweld the doors, because last Sunday, I walked by there and the door was wide open. I got on the telephone, I called the Department of General Service, the contact person, okay? 2 weeks before that, they broke out 5 other windows. And I have asked the contact person from the Department of General Service, can they put some cameras up? Can they put some no trespassing signs up? And it's constantly being vandalized. The money is allocated. Go ahead and fix the school up. That's a historical landmark. Go ahead and fix the school up. Because it's sad. It's sad. I got to take time off to go and make walking rounds at that school, like maybe once a week or even twice a week. Or when I walk by the school and I see a door open, I'll come home and call the Department of General Service. Or I walk by, it's 5 or 6 windows busted out. I got pictures of the windows being busted out. I got pictures of the door being left wide open and everything. Fix the school up. Just fix it up. It's been so long. And the only thing I keep getting is the train has left the station, Commissioner Blacknell. They've been in the school working. You know, it's sad. Fix it up. It's supposed to be the infrastructure academy. By the time, I hate to say it, they start working on it, it's going to need more money to fix it up.
So I know you have reached out to me before about the door being open. Has it never been fixed, or they like keep breaking inside the door?
Breaking into it. They keep. The first, I sent you pictures of the first.
Yeah.
Okay? Just like I said, okay, within a 2-week span, it was August 14th. I had to go there. The Department of General Service sent the guys out on August 15th. I was out there with them. It was on a Monday. I had an appointment. I canceled my appointment to walk down there to make sure they boarded the windows back up. Come to find out, it was 2 doors that they unwelded. Okay. Then, as I said, like Sunday before last, walked there. By the door sitting wide open.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll give you guys an opportunity to work on that. And just to kind of quickly answer the question in the chat regarding Spingarn, as Commissioner Blacknell said, that's via DGS. The only other question I have for the mayor's office is, well, unless any other commissioners have questions or comments. Okay, the only other question I have is a public question. How can we access free lift to the meeting for maternal and child health session at the convention center?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How can people get lift access?
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna drop the link in the chat and you have to register. So once you go online, all the information is going to be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, and we'll try to stay on track for our time's sake here. We do have a presentation from 5 Medicine Right now I have Opal, Weston, and Curtis Formencia listed as giving the presentation, but I don't see either of those names in the chat.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. I see you as a second Commissioner Rhodes.
I could be a second commissioner if you want, you know.
I don't know how the first one feels
He don't
about
he don't
that.
want that. He don't want that smoke.
No. But
Absolutely.
if you need to go ahead and share your screen, if you can actually use the
Yeah.
raise hand, what I can do is differentiate between the two of you. So
Got it.
I know who's gonna need to screen share.
I will, if you give me access, let me try this. I've had some glitches in my share screen before, so I
Right.
may have to email it to you, but let me try right now.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so you should have the ability to share your screen.
All right, let me know if it's working.
That is working.
Okay, excellent. All right. So my name is Curtis Formencia. I'm the director of 5 Medicine. We do a lot of vaccinations and testing and telehealth work in the DC area and in Maryland. We started in 2018, and our focus primarily was focusing on underserved communities. And how it came about is, you know, a lot of my family members, they kept calling for, you know, services like they need a prescription for something or they just needed care. And I realized telehealth is the future. It just so happens COVID-19 came around and then everybody jumped into it. But a lot of our underserved communities still don't have the access like everybody else does. So we dived in, and when COVID came around, we started using our mobile units and providing care towards the community. And one of the first things we did was with the Faith and Vaccine, in which we connected with our partners with the churches and nonprofit organizations in serving, especially wards 5, 7, and 8. And you know, so we try to make that connection in the community because they're the most that community. A lot of people don't get served or heard, or they don't have a lot of services that come directly to them. So we thought we wanted to fill that void. Like, for example, who we are, we partner with a lot of nonprofit organizations, community partners, and our primary focus is on, like I said, focusing on the underprivileged community. We're licensed and bonded. We have 50 clinical staff members, RNs, physicians, physician assistants, and we are building out our mental health services. We have a clinical psychologist on board, and we're building out that more because we realize that is a huge need, especially in the future. Some of the services that we provide, like I said, is vaccines, COVID-19 testing, lipid panels, and one of the big things that I like to in bold, we have a lot, as you guys see here, is the prostate screening, in which that affects a lot of African American men, especially over the ages 40 and 50. And the big thing about why we're highly focused on that is because before, prostate exams were very, it was a digital rectal exam. And a lot of men like to get that test. It's very uncomfortable. But now it's a blood test, which now people can get screened, and we can now prevent a lot of especially prostate cancer, which kills a lot about us. We can start screening and testing for that, and really making an impact in our community, because that is one of the leading causes of death in our African American community. These are our mobile units. We've been using them in Baltimore and DC, and we configured them to actually now come to the community that needs it. And it makes us very flexible, and we can provide a lot of services that they can get in your primary care office. And we really think that this is the future, like medicine or community medicine, in which we come to your community and provide some level of care. Because at this moment, a lot of people, if you need to get a doctor's office appointment, it takes a while. Or if you need to get just basic tests, it takes some time. So we figured if we can come to you, we think it could be a little bit more efficient. 5 Medicine's outreach impact, we average between 900 and 1,400 people canvas per month. And we go around reaching communities, nonprofit organizations, and we're just doing, we're on the ground, just talking to people, letting them know who we are and what we're trying to do. We're partnering with community organizations and leaders in our community. We combined this, I think this event was the back to school event, in which we combined to give out backpacks and provide immunizations and testing for kids going back to school. Clients and project partners we work with is Murray Center, United Way, United Healthcare, Baltimore City Health Department, Baltimore County Government, and DC Health Department as well. And one of the organizations we worked with last week is the East River Family Strengthening Collaborative and Rodham Institute as well. Those are some of our strategic partners in the community that we're working with. I know there's a pretty brief, very short and brief synopsis of what we do. And I can open the floor. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, first up, let's go to questions or comments from the commissioners. And then next up, we'll go to public comments and questions. And just a reminder for folks out in the public, you can either type your question in the Q&A or you can use the raise hand feature. So any comments or questions from our commissioners? Commissioner Rhodes?
Yeah, in a conversation with Miss Opal, I asked her, could you all come to the communities over here in Ivy City and Trinidad for several days a week? Is that possible? Is that still possible?
Yeah, I mean, we have our schedule in place where right now we're in Ward 5, 7, and 8, so we move our mobile units around. But yes, we can come. We put on a schedule. We'll go anywhere. That's what we do. So let us know, and we'll come out there.
Okay, and then if you don't mind, if you could turn off the screen share so I can see the ASL interpreters and the other people with questions. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Salceda Guzman.
Thanks, Commissioner. Mr. Curtis, thanks for coming out tonight. Just quick question. What times do you guys usually do your on the grounds work? Here in DC, we do get a lot of agencies and offices that do have these small health fairs, but they tend to be during the times when it's convenient to them. It's not convenient really to the residents. We don't really see a lot of things going on at night, particularly. I know Commissioner Rhodes just mentioned Ivy City and Trinidad. We would love to see something like on a Friday night when there's a lot of available people that would really benefit from these services. When do you guys usually do these things?
It's most likely because we do, one of our strategic partners is Berry Center. So we try to, especially if we're doing, say, immunizations or vaccinations, we try to time it with their ending and closing because we want to make sure the vaccination process and the cold chain process is intact. But if you want to be, if you want something that's more custom, like say you want it at Friday evening, we have done, I've got Shots for Shots, I believe it was on Georgia Avenue, which was in the evening. I believe we did a vaccination event. So we're able to actually alter our time. So if you have something in mind, please reach out to me. We can figure it out.
Okay. All right. Anything else from commissioners?
I just have one question. Do y'all come out on Saturdays?
Oh, yes, we do.
On the weekend?
We're out every Saturday. The only day we don't work is Sunday. We're like Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
So Sundays I give my team
Oh,
off.
no, I know.
But,
I would like to set up something for Carver and Langston on a Saturday.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then we do have one public question from Skip Keats. How does your service work with health insurance?
So, yes, that is. We just got credentialed. Well, mental health, we're getting on the credentialing with Medicare and Medicaid, I believe in January for health insurance for medical services. We do take mostly all of them: DC Medicaid, Medicare. I can give the list: United Healthcare, Care First. I know we don't take TRICARE and Kaiser, but most of them we take for medical services.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. And if you could please put your contact information in the chat for everyone, just in case folks have questions for you after the meeting. And the same for any questions we didn't get to previously. I saw some good questions I just didn't see while the speaker was still up. So if you want to reach out to any of the speakers, just check the chat for their direct contact information and you can reach out to them with questions. Next up, we have Emalia Tamanikwa. I hope I didn't do that too badly for the Penn and 4th Street project. or Bill Caldwell.
Hi, can you guys hear us? Or me, I guess.
I can. If you could pronounce your name, hopefully I didn't do too bad of a job.
So you did a wonderful job. Thank you for trying.
Okay. My best effort.
We actually also have, I don't know how you guys typically, I guess, have other people speak, because it's going to be Bill Caldwell, Michael Nicholas, and Michael Marshall. I just want to make sure they have the capability, and David Rubin, I'm sorry.
Okay. And I don't see a David. Okay, I do see David Rubin. So we do see him there. If you'll just let us know who is actually sharing their screen, if you have a screen share, and we can give that person co-host status, or if it's multiple folks.
So Bill Caldwell has his hand raised up, sharing the screen for us.
All right. And we'll go ahead and give you that capability now. You should see a pop-up. And then you can go ahead and share your screen and get started whenever you're ready. Okay, we can see that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Moore. So my name is Emalia Tamanikwa. I'm with Edens, and we'll be presenting aspects of the Penn and Fourth project alongside me. I'm going to be presenting it with Bill Caldwell and our consultant team. For this project, we have 2 buildings that we plan on consolidating as part of our PUD application. We have 2 architects that we've decided to engage with as far as, getting the design off to the level that we have so far. I'm going to just quickly, give an introduction to these presenters. We have Michael Marshall joining us from Michael Marshall Designs, who will be presenting Penn Building. And we also have Michael Nicholas from HKS, who will be presenting the 4th building. And we finally have our landscape architect, David Rubin from Land Collective, who will walk us through our landscape plan, placemaking, and activation in the public realm. I just want to give you a high level of what we are proposing for this consolidated PUD. As I said, we have 2 buildings that will be providing about 190 below grade parking spaces to support 417,000 square feet of development, and we have approximately 375 apartments and 30,000 square feet of retail. It was really important to us as we were designing both the buildings that we managed to we really thought about how we want to make sure that we are engaging with the public realm and making sure that we're hyper focused on making sure this area, this place is going to be something that really supports the effort that we're trying to do here. As you can see, this is the zoning map. We have the subject PUD. It's currently zoned for PDR 1, and we're proposing for it to be MU9A. So to orient you, this project is on New York Avenue. It's on Penn Street Northeast. As we talk about, what these dash lines mean, it's really to help you understand that, where the project sites are. It's nestled between New York Avenue, Penn Street, and Fifth Street. As I mentioned earlier, this is pretty much a diagram to help you understand that, right now we have Motel 6 and Pascal site. and also the Maurice parking lot site in its current existing condition. Motel 6 and Pascal Parcels will be consolidated into one building, which HKS designed, and Maurice site will be the second building with which MMD or Michael Marshall designed. Our vision for this project is to act as a gateway as you enter from New York Avenue and shape the neighborhood from the northern perspective. And we really want to make sure that this is an opportunity that we can draw and encourage activity on 4th Street and Penn Street, and as well as 5th Street. So, some existing context. Before we deep dive into our plans and renderings, we wanted to remind you of the existing site context. These images are displayed here to really just show the block elevations of both parcels and illustrate the historical context. I'm going to shift it off to David Rubin.
Thank you, Emalia. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for having us this evening. The plan that we've put together for the public realm really does relate strategically to the significant grade change that happens across the site, and also to the experience of alternating civic spaces, areas where the public can access the site down 4th Street and through the Paseo, activate the alley, Pascal Way, and 5th Street. This is a series of civic spaces that begins to stitch the experience of the landscape of Union Market together holistically. Next one, Bill. So you get a sense in the three-dimensional context of how we're trying to move through the space, activate the alley, that's the dashed line on the left, moved east-west through 2 Paseos to begin to activate that alley and see this piece of infrastructure also as a place for engagement and participation. Next one, Bill. And so in looking at the civic spaces, the connective tissue of this neighborhood, we're really working with the Union Market guidelines for the flex zone, which is immediately adjacent to the curb, with the circulation zone and then the tenant zone, and really trying to engage right through to the curb in the experience of this particular site. Next one. Our goal is to take the existing condition, which is truly about infrastructure as imaged on the upper left, and try to make it both infrastructure and place to be and participate. Really beginning to work with the grit and verve of Union Market to create an environment of accessible participation throughout. Next one. And to really begin to think about what it means to occupy that space. Again, recognizing that it has aspects of infrastructure through it, but really over the context of the alley itself, really push the public experience, help people to understand that it is an occupied space, make it very experiential in its context. Next one. Truly think about the Paseo, which are the east-west connections that go from 4th Street all the way to 5th Street, as these extraordinary east-west pathways that are experiential, again, rich with art, but also zones for occupation and for the retail experience as part of the connective tissue and fabric of the neighborhood. Next one. Michael?
Thank you, everybody. Just to describe the architecture for the project a little bit more, it really kind of builds upon the conversation that Emalia and David have offered in terms of how the buildings can be informed by the context of the neighborhood and some of the design moves that we're suggesting for the ground floor and the ground plane of the neighborhood. Michael Marshall and I have had the pleasure of collaborating on the 2 buildings. Michael's building is to the left. The building we've worked on is more to the right. You can see the site really forms a gateway entrance to the Union Market neighborhood. This is a view looking from New York Avenue south toward our site. You can see a longer building in the foreground, the alley kind of in the middle of the site to the left, and then Michael Marshall's building to the left. The design of the building has been informed by a few factors. The first one being a point of view about health and wellness and access to natural light and fresh air. As you can see from the renderings, the building is proposed to be a very balconied building, offering most all of the apartment units access to a balcony and fresh air and light. And given the last few years that we've been through, that's a particularly important issue. The shaping of the building has been sort of bent and informed in a dramatic way by a passageway through the blocks and forming a strong gateway to the neighborhood. So.
And one other thing to point out is that the building to the left that my firm has designed brings the scale down. We're trying to mediate from the higher volume buildings, and then towards the center of the site, the building itself starts to step down. And as you can see here along Penn Street. And again, throughout the site, the retail base is consistent from 4th Street, Penn Street, and then down 5th Street. Next image.
This is a view looking up 4th Street, kind of from the south looking north. You can see the David mentioned how much grade change or how much of a hill the site happens to be located on. You can kind of see it in this view. You can see this sort of curved linear character of the building. The inside bend of the building kind of marks this through block passageway that David was referring to. And you can see as well the ground floor retail uses and introduction of green biophilic elements at the top of the retail floor. So next slide.
So as we've been saying, the retail base of all of the structures here is very important to being consistent with the market features throughout the Union Market site. And then once the building comes up, this view is at the corner of Penn and 5th Street. So we wanted to do something special at the corner. And so that's why there's sort of a slight inset at the corner, not unlike typical apartment buildings throughout the historic parts of DC, but we wanted to do this in a contemporary fashion. And as you can see at the top of the building, we're going to animate that with rooftop amenities. And you can see sort of a crown here at the very top with a trellis. And in this case, for this building, there are strategic locations where you start to see balconies. Next image. So this is a view looking north on 5th Street. And the thing I really want to point out here is that we're using this building to mediate, as I said, the height difference between some of the larger buildings along Penn and along 4th Street and along the alley, Pascal Way. And so with the market sort of marching up the hill, we've actually set the facade and set the volume of the building at the Maurice lot back, and with a sort of a courtyard and terrace to sort of make a step in the direction of the height of the historic market buildings. And you can see here, there are balconies that are facing south. Not only are they giving views towards the monumental core and downtown, but also providing shading on the very southern facade of the building. Next image.
This is a view looking from 4th Street west or east toward 5th Street. You can see how we've broken the massing of the building in the storefront to introduce a through block passageway that connects to the alley in the middle of the block and then further east toward 5th. We've really carved the massing of the building in a way to really kind of mark this and make it a special part of the project. Next slide.
And again, this shows the concept of mostly, you can see the retail sort of flanking the streets along 5th along Penn and 4th Street, which is very important for making, again, a very lively ground floor community consistent with the rest of Union Market. And so also to point out, in the building at the Murray's parking lot is where we actually have the driveway to get down to the garage level is in that building, but the garage is straddled between both properties, but the entrance will be off of Pascal Way with also service bays for both buildings along Pascal Way. And then as you can see, the Paseo from 4th Street to Pascal Way and continuing south of the Paseo, a second Paseo that flanks the retail buildings, retail spaces along 4th Street, and also with access off of Pascal Way. Next image.
Here you're looking at, as you move up through the building, how the buildings are organized with residential spaces facing the streets and facing the alleys with, a corridor organizing the center of the building and vertical circulation. So next slide. We continue to move up through the building a little bit more. You can see how the two buildings are organized with units, again, facing the streets and internally toward the alley itself. As you continue to move up through the building, you can see the residential floors again. You start to see the rooftop areas of the two buildings with, limited amount of penthouse space and rooftop amenity, as Michael mentioned earlier, for both buildings in a way, really.
Yeah, and also to point out, this is where you can start to see that the building on the Maurice parking lot starts to drop out and become a lower floor building compared to the building at 4th and Penn. Next slide.
We're again looking at the top of the building. The image on the left is showing the penthouse top floor of the longer building along 4th Street, and you're seeing the roof of the lower building along 5th. Next slide.
And in this image, you can start to see how much of the roofscape that we're looking at to provide green roof and amenities, landscaping, also that you can see throughout the site. So it's very important for us for the sustainability in a project like this that is, again, consistent with the targets that the Edens has for the Union Market community. Next image.
Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate the time that you've allotted for us to talk about this exciting, dynamic project. As you know, my counterparts and my colleagues in this process have stated that this project will be a gateway off of New York Avenue onto 4th and Penn Street. We really wanted to make sure that the project embodied several moments of activation in the public realm and felt like transformative expressions that fostered community engagement, enrichment, and really shaped the northern neighborhood, embody the essence that Union Market District does. I wanted to also just make sure I invited you all to a couple of community events that we are having. I'll just drop a link of those different events for you guys to just, keep in mind in the coming weeks. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you all so much. First up, we will go with questions from commissioners, and then we'll move back to questions from the community. And I would just ask, it makes it a little bit easier for me to keep up with questions if I can. Thank you. There you go. Thanks so much. So first up from our commissioners, any questions or comments from you all?
I just have a question about the affordable housing. What percentage of affordable housing will you have at those units?
So we are proposing 13%. And, if you want to understand, I guess, the breakdown, we have about 40 units that will be dedicated to 60% MFI, and then 7 units at 50% MFI.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And just a comment from me very quickly. That is a good number. It is higher than, what the district requires. We typically go for on this commission about 15% in the area. So anything you could do to inch a bit closer to that, we like to maintain our average at around that number. So anything you could do to inch just a little bit closer to that would be very much appreciated. Okay, and I do see any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, and I do see we do have a question from the public. Allison Stamps. It sounds like there's going to be a parking spot for about half the units. Parking in that area is already terrible. How will this work for residents and people visiting the area? It sounds like doubling your current parking plan at minimum is needed.
So thank you. Oh yeah, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. We had some technical difficulties. I was talking before. I was supposed to be part of the earlier part of the presentation, but Emalia stepped up. I apologize. Yeah, parking is always an issue at Union Market as it becomes more popular. We completely recognize the need for more parking. We're working very closely with OP to determine what that number is. I will say that with the other developments coming online, there will be more parking provided, both retail and residential. OP is very interested in sort of managing the amount of parking from a modal split perspective to allow bicyclists and as well as Lyft and Uber. But we completely understand that, and we will try to get as much parking as we can in working with the Office of Planning. But we completely recognize the issue. We own, Union Market and La Cosecha, so we're very interested in trying to make it as easy as possible for folks to get there by a variety of different transportation modes.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And then Kevin Horgan, is Eden's presentation purely informational, or is there an ask to the ANC? Do they have an upcoming hearing scheduled? So I can answer the first part and then I'll let you guys jump in on your hearing schedule. But right now, this presentation for today is just a requested presentation and we don't have a vote scheduled for this current meeting. And I'll let you guys jump in and discuss your hearing schedule because we will need to start scheduling votes based around that.
Yeah, we're actually in the midst of trying to schedule something in the next coming weeks with OP before we file the PUD. So if we're able to get a time for that, then we'll be able to hopefully file the PUD, before October.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So I would expect something at the earliest, probably in the December time range, kind of having some awareness of that hearing calendar. So just for the public's information. Mark Wellborn, what buildings will these replace? I missed that part.
So, for the Motel 6 in Pascal site, we currently have a Motel 6 as a tenant. And for the Pascal site, those are commercial buildings. And then Maurice parking lot is actually above grade parking lot right now.
Okay, all right. And then Catherine Willis has our final question. What arts/cultural aspects are going to be included to honor the local heritage? Also, what planning is being done to address traffic flow, especially off of New York Avenue?
So, as holistically from a Union Market District perspective, we are constantly making sure that there's art and we are catering to the different heritage and local preservation of what's here. In October, we have the Hispanic Heritage Month coming, and we're going to celebrate that at La Cosecha Market. We also have a really exciting tenant that is going to be joining Union Market District, and it's actually called Museum for Black Girls. So definitely please feel free to come through and check that out. It's really about innovation through the Black voice and through the collective. I'm super excited about it. Like I said, it's going to be in September. And then we have just a bunch of different placemaking and activation that we've, partnered with our tenants at Eden's.
All right, well, thank you for,
Go
ahead.
There was a second part of the question, I believe, which related to traffic, correct?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Especially off New York Avenue, the traffic flow.
Yeah, it's a great point. So if you've been over there recently, you see the building that's being constructed on the corner of Penn and 4th Street in Florida, where that all comes together. That entire intersection is going to be reworked. So there'll be new signals that'll actually be installed, I think, fairly soon. To help, the timing of those, because I know it gets backed up right on 4th and Florida Avenue. So I know that's being worked on as we speak. I don't know the exact schedule of when those new signals will be installed, but they will be part of that development on the corner.
All right, well, thank you for that. And thank you for your presentation. That's the last question that we had from you all. If you don't mind dropping some contact information into the chat for everyone, we'll have people who might have additional questions or comments reach out to you all directly. All right. So next up on our agenda, moving right along, we have voting items. So we do have 2 voting items for this meeting. I don't see Robbie Saklaridis, excuse me if that's wrong, Nick Anderson or Lawrence Ferris. But if you are on the meeting or you need to join or get a colleague to join, if you could have them do that while we review the first item. And Commissioner Cobb, if you could walk us through that first resolution supporting B24949.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. On October 5th, the DC Council's Committee on Transportation and the Environment will be holding a public hearing on Bill B24-949, the Booting and Impoundment Reform Act Amendment Act of 2022. And I think it plugs a really critical gap in our current way of enforcing reckless drivers, repeat offenders, those who are eligible for booting and towing. Under the current system, more or less, DPW, their boot and impound team, follows set routes on a given schedule, which leaves a lot to be desired. And on top of that, they are not allowed to enter private commercial garages. So this bill closes both of those loopholes. It allows DDOT to enter private commercial garages to look for scofflaw vehicles, and it also allows DPW in real time to divert from their established routes if they are made aware that there is a car eligible for booting or towing somewhere else nearby. So that's basically what it is. This resolution or this letter would go to the DC Council voicing the ANC's support for the bill. And so that's where we are today. Are there any questions?
So we'll first up have discussion from our commissioners, and then we'll hear from the public. Personally, I'll say I support it because I think what happens, especially in our neighborhood, a lot in Carver Langston, is that we end up with out of state or fake out of state tags all over the street, taking up people's parking. They come for one car. There are 5 other cars on the same block they could have just picked up at the same time. And it doesn't happen. And that is just kind of a waste of resources. It's a waste of the residents' time having to make these multiple reports for something that I know that if you just look out the window as the tow truck driver, you can see. So I do appreciate them making an update to the way they're handling that. So any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Well, Commissioner Moore, I agree with you because I had a car parked out here where I live at, and it took them almost 4 months to come and tow it. They were putting put tickets on it, take the old tickets off, put a new ticket on it, take the old ticket off, put a new ticket on it. And when I called, they told me that they had a backlog. It actually took them 4 months to come and move the car. They booted it. Somebody took the boot off. They booted it again. And I hate to say it, when you call 311, it tell you it takes 90 days for a request to be complete. Try 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I'm not seeing any public comments or questions. Any more comments or questions from the commission? Okay, I do see some public questions. Ms. White, Angel White says, this bill would impact persons who would park at Safeway but go to Zips instead, or just for abandoned cars?
Well, it would apply to any car that's eligible for booting and towing, which means they have 2 or more tickets that are 60 days older or more. So what that would mean is, say there's a car that has 2 parking tickets that are a year old, and so it's eligible for booting and towing. If they were to go park at Heckinger Mall, a private commercial lot, DPW could enter that lot, find the car, boot it, and tow it. That's what that means.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know it's not so much for private parking issues. So if you park in a Safeway spot and then you go to some other business, the city's not out here trying to handle Safeway's parking lot issues. They're out here trying to handle, people who have tickets and have been called in on multiple tickets and are just kind of finding different ways to try to get around the parking. And make that more efficient. Desiree Williams, this will also target current residents when they won't appropriately zone out street to residential only parking. So the only way this would impact you is if you have more tickets than you're supposed to have, which it doesn't matter what street you're parked on. If you have too many tickets, they're allowed to pick up your car. But this just makes it more efficient so that they're not making multiple trips to do that.
Right. And also, let me clarify, it's 2 or more unpaid tickets that are 60 days or older. So if you just pay your tickets, then it's not an issue.
Yeah, and a lot of people get parking tickets, but you just have to pay them within a certain time and not have more than 2 of them. Skip Keats, will DPW go down alleys? Asking because my block has had issues with unregistered vehicles being parked in privately owned spaces that the unregistered vehicle owner does not own.
DPW will go down alleys, but they are very careful about enforcing parking rules or booting or towing cars that are on private property. In fact, before DPW, right now, they won't even go into commercial garages. This is one of the things that the bill would change. DPW still will not enter private residential parking, like a driveway in the back or something like that. The only exception is if there's an abandoned car on private property. DPW can tow that away. It just takes a very long time, and there's multiple steps to the process because there are concerns with entering private property.
I mean, especially if you're the property owner, what I found helps is if you'll call in and say, I'm the property owner, I have a vehicle that does not belong to me that's been abandoned on my property. Here's the location, here's the information, here's how long it's been here, can you pick it up? And they typically will come out and get it. We've had several property owners who are dealing with this issue. And then our last question comes from Patrick Arnett. How does this relate to reciprocity with Maryland and Virginia drivers with DC driving infractions, if at all?
Well, it would give DPW more flexibility to boot and tow cars, including Maryland and Virginia cars. So, it doesn't provide for any sort of reciprocity. That's a mayoral process, but it does make it more likely that more Maryland and Virginia cars will be booted and towed.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a more efficient way, because we have a schedule for today. We are here to pick up this one car when there are 5 cars on that block. that they know need to be picked up. It doesn't make as much sense to just kind of make, all of these extra trips to handle that. Okay, so that's everything we have from commissioners and the public. Commissioner Cobb, if you want to go ahead and put a motion on the floor, we can vote.
I move that we adopt the letter as written.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you so much, Commissioner Cobb. And I do see that Mr. Saklarides had a chance to join us during that presentation. You should have the ability to share your screen if you need to. So please let us know if you're having any technical difficulties. And okay, great. Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm misgendering you and mispronouncing.
Yes, you did. That's okay. It happens all the time.
Okay, that was the worst one of the night. But no ill intent there. So if you'll just go ahead and just let us know, you should have co-host status.
Sure.
You can share with us.
If you can, I guess, pull up my colleagues, Nick Anderson, Oliver Link. Nick
Okay,
Anderson,
give me just.
Oliver Link, and Sophie.
Okay, I do see Oliver Link and I do see Sophie. I won't make an attempt there. Okay, so everyone should be up as a panelist at this point. And then I do know that you have co-host screen sharing ability, but is that, are you the only person who needs it?
I'm going to share.
Yeah, Oliver will be the one sharing. Sorry to make it difficult for you.
No, that's okay. That's
Thank
why
you.
I asked. Okay. All right. And then you should have the ability to do that whenever you're ready, Oliver.
Okay, should I proceed to share?
Yes, go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Is Nick up? Maybe I just don't.
Nick, if you're not up, if you could use the raise hand feature, and we'll track you down and make sure that you are got it.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Wonderful. Are we waiting for anyone else, or?
I think we have Nick on the line as well.
There it is. Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Robbie Saklarides. I'm on the development team with JDG Smith. We're here tonight representing the partnership with Gallaudet University and to present part of the 6th Street development project. So this is all land owned by Gallaudet, and we're partnering with them to help develop and bring their vision to life. The 6th Street development is comprised of 4 parcels. All of them have already been approved for a stage 1 PUD. So this is what was approved as sort of a master plan. And that was with the ANC support. And our first phase of development, you'll see parcels 2 and 3, which are, yes, thank you. You heard from me about a year ago on those parcels. We went through hearing, a year ago, last fall, with your support, and we received approvals in January. For that phase. So we hope to break ground in roughly a year and get going there. Tonight, we're here to talk about our second phase, which is parcel 4, towards the northern end of 6th Street, and to request your support for yet another stage 2 PUD. This is, again, the stage 2 is focused purely on design because we're not modifying anything from the plan that you see here. And I think that's all. I'll hand it over to Nick and our design team to walk you through the design of parcel 4.
Perfect. Thanks, Robbie. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all again tonight. I'm Nick Anderson. I'm one of the development managers with JBG Smith. So as Robbie just mentioned, that our stage 2 PUD focuses primarily on the building design, and that's what Oliver will share with you all later in the presentation. So as approved in our stage 1 PUD up on the screen, parcel 4 is on Penn Street in between 5th and 6th. In yellow, we have approximately 560,000 square feet of residential over approximately 60,000 square feet of retail in pink. Next slide, please. So before we dive into the design portion of tonight's presentation, I wanted to briefly remind everyone of the community benefits and amenities package that was approved as part of the stage 1 with full OP and ANC support. It's a long list, so we'll stick to just the highlights. First and foremost, in terms of neighborhood development, the uses and benefits we are proposing for our project are all net new to the site and neighborhood. We are providing approximately 60 units of affordable housing as part of the project. The majority of those units are at the 50% MFI level. We have executed a first source agreement with DOES, which will prioritize hiring local DC residents as part of the construction process. We have 10,000 square feet of retail dedicated to makerspace at a discount market rent. Additionally, we have 5,000 square feet of retail dedicated to deaf or hard of hearing entrepreneurs. Now, one of the big goals of the project is to create a safer pedestrian experience on 6th Street, and we'll achieve this by narrowing the right-of-way to slow traffic, installing a protected bike lane, and installing a tabletop crossing at Neal. In conjunction with DDOT, we're going to help with traffic mitigation by installing new signaling and new traffic cameras. And lastly, as it relates to sustainability, our project will be LEED certified. Next slide, please. So again, tonight we're just focusing on parcel 4, and here are just a few images of the site today where you can see it is Gallaudet's Corporation Yard, which is currently being used for construction materials, staging, and parking for the parcel next door. We're very excited to present our design for parcel 4 with you all tonight, as it will serve as a welcoming entry into the Union Market neighborhood. Now I will hand it off to Oliver.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us join the call and present to you our design for parcel 4 in the Union Market District. As Nick had started off, we're located at the north end of Union Market between the sort of historic wholesale retail area on 5th Street, along 5th Street, and bordering along 6th Street, where we have the Gallaudet University and the Brentwood Hamilton Park. We're located up towards Penn Street. So we're at the sort of top of the hill of the Union Market District. And we have our site actually affords quite a drastic level change, about 15 or so plus feet. So we'll show in our next slides how we sort of took advantage of that topography and developed our design. Starting off with our massing concepts, here on the left, we started out working with the topography and the orientation of the building. We located the 2 largest massings of the building on the north, east-west axis, optimizing energy performance and southern exposures. This leaves us with a space in between. Here you can see in this second image where we open up the building on 5th Street, expanding the sidewalk to an entry plaza area, which I'll describe a little bit later on, through the sort of glassy lobby of the building, in the sunken garden, over to a 2nd floor green space that then overlooks and connects with the Brentwood Hamilton Park across the street on 6th Street. To complete the massing of the building, you can see these gray infills that we articulate here. And essentially, we're showing them as slightly different because through the articulation of unique materials, we break down the massing of the building. It's a very big site, and we took very careful care to break down the building at the 4 corners and also the overall massing, as we'll show in a second. Here, just a slide, a section from 5th Street through to 6th Street. And again, just to reiterate, that connection from the historic retail on 5th Street into the entry plaza, which sort of expands that open area, as well as creates the entry to the building, but also brings in retail. And then through the building, over up onto a 2nd floor, we will provide green terraces to connect us with the visual axis of the Hamilton Park greenery. With this level change of 15 plus feet that I mentioned earlier, we have 2 ground levels essentially. This is our lower ground floor, which connects here on 5th Street with the entry plaza that I've mentioned, with retail flanked to the north and to the south, and entering into this glass entry building lobby to the east. On 5th Street, we also have the parking garage entry here. And over on 6th Street, additional retail spaces, a secondary entrance for our tenants, which primarily be used for a bike entrance directly off that bike lane that Nick mentioned on 6th Street, taking you straight down to the bike garage. There's also our off-street loading entrance here on 6th Street to the south. And then on the upper ground floor, you can see the real difference in the plan really is along Penn Street, where we have that higher elevation, and we introduce retail spaces of varied square footage along the northern end. You can see here in plan also how the building steps in and out, and the corners are expressed in the plan, and I'll show more of that in our renderings. While the middle section is pulled back and expands that sidewalk experience and creates outdoor retail spaces for retailers to occupy. Same here on 6th Street. So standing here on the corner of Penn Street and 5th Street, we're looking south towards the building. And I think this view is really here to show the sort of breaking down of the massing of the corners. There will be more views that demonstrate that. We have one building to the south and one on the north, and in between is the entry plaza that I mentioned earlier on, which leads you into the building here and to a sort of glassy facade in between. We included this slide to just demonstrate some of our firm's previous buildings that we've done. You can see here a series of projects with masonry and concrete facades with punched windows, which is here on the left with limestone, on the right brick, which give a strong urban identity, in particular at the corners of the site, as well as at the top end of the Union Market where we are located, while still opening up at the street level to the pedestrian experience. In the middle here is an image that we included to demonstrate some of the articulation that we are providing for the in-between spaces or bridge buildings that also include balconies. We like to work with brick. We think for the use of brick in this particular neighborhood is contextual to the adjacent buildings, particularly on the campus at the university across the street. These are some of the examples of us using brick in a contemporary way. And for our palette, we're exploring the sort of color of the brick to be a lighter tan brick juxtaposed with darker metal accents, particularly around the windows. You can see here on the top left where we frame the windows in the dark metal. And in the middle, break down the sort of corners with this bridge link where we have more metal and glass balconies. So here, looking across the street from 5th Avenue towards the east, this view really sort of reaffirms what I had mentioned before, which is a brick corner building on the left and on the right with the bridge building in between. And I want to point out that this is not just a flat glass facade. It's a layering of thin steel columns with railings and balconies with a glass, individual glass window and door to each of the apartments set back 4 or 5 feet or so. This gives you a view into the entry plaza with canopies, really contextualizing the canopies from across the street, and we're introducing canopies and wrapping them into the entry plaza here. We're moving around the building towards the east. This is Penn Street and 5th Street. It really gives you an idea of the 4 corners of the building. There's some 70 or so feet in plan square, and then in between these infill buildings of the glass and steel balconies along Penn Street here. And then on 6th Street, essentially looking from hovering over Brentwood Hamilton Park, looking back towards the building and the second floor green space and terraces, which is an amenity for the tenants of the building. More retail along 6th Street down here. And I'm going to hand it over to Sophie from Future Green for the landscape component. Did we get Sophie on?
Did elevate her.
You're still muted, Sophie.
Oh, sorry. Can you all hear me?
Yes, perfect. Please
Sorry
go
about
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I am Sophie Michelle Horton, representing Future Green Studio. We're the landscape architect on the project. So here we're just taking kind of a closer look at the overall roof plan, kind of more clearly seeing the number of green open spaces on the site. And at the ground level, just starting off there, we have a number of occupiable planting zones, seating areas along 6th Street, Penn Street and 5th Street, and large flex zones that will help kind of guide people into the entry plaza, which Oliver was touching on and we'll look at more closely in an upcoming slide. And then taking a look at the 2nd floor terrace with an expansive pet park that'll be accessible to residents, and then another amenity terrace on the 2nd floor with lush garden rooms that will be also observable from the public sidewalk and will really help to green the building from the ground up. And then we have an additional amenity terrace and a pool deck at the penthouse level, and that will be shaded by some specimen trees and building canopy structures that will be draped in vines. And all of these planting zones on the roof levels, as well as the street, will include a wide range of perennials and grasses and shrubs and trees that are native to the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which is really important for local pollinators and will enhance biodiversity in the neighborhood. Next slide. So here we're just looking at some kind of helpful precedent case studies of other entry plazas of kind of similar size and scale to the one at Parcel 4. And we think kind of all of these have some successful elements. In the upper left image, kind of making great use of bench seating integrated with tree planters. And then the top right image there shows a kind of enticing aesthetic of materials and plantings in this post-industrial feel. The bottom left, Paley Park, is a charming kind of pocket park in Manhattan with dappled shade from a simple tree grove and movable furniture. And then that last image on the bottom right just shows kind of a great planting buffer at the building edge with the central space that's left quite open and flexible for circulation. Next slide. So it's really important for us to follow deaf space design principles as much as possible in all of the outdoor spaces on the site. It'll be really important for us to select plants that will allow for full transparency at eye level, clear landmarks like sculptural features that can serve as visual cues and meeting points, walking surfaces without any trip hazards, textured paving that could indicate transitions between pedestrian and vehicular zones, built-in seating that could be designed for small and large groups to sit facing one another, materials like wood decking and crushed stone that can help pick up vibrations, and then an outdoor lighting scheme that can enhance visibility at night. Next slide. So here, just kind of zooming in to take a closer look at the entry plaza. We really wanted to create a space of calm repose in this industrial neighborhood. And because of the significant grade change across the site that Oliver was mentioning, from north to south, we really wanted to find kind of creative methods to address these topographical shifts, but still keeping the site as accessible as possible. And we wanted to kind of acknowledge the rich history of the area and sort of imagining this entry court as kind of an excavation, as if we were unearthing these remnant building foundations from the past. And so this plaza is bookended as well by 2 retail terraces for neighboring food and beverage services, buffered by planting zones, but also easily accessible from the street. And then that 7-foot grade change across the entry plaza from north to south would be mitigated through really lush terrace planting, which could also incorporate some kind of hardscape zones, retaining edges, seat walls, and steps that meander through, and then kind of opening up into these occupiable terraces that could accommodate small group gatherings and have movable, kind of flexible furniture. Next slide. And then this is just kind of a view looking into the entry plaza from 5th Street, giving you a better sense of kind of the lush planting going back up the hill, and then sort of these open areas for clear circulation into the building and retail zones.
Great, and that's it. So I'll stop sharing.
All right, thanks everyone. And hi, I'm Lawrence Ferris. I'm with the law firm of Goulston Stores. We're land use counsel for this project. So just in terms of timing, we obviously presented to you all back in June, and then we filed our application with the Zoning Commission in July, and we're looking at early winter for our hearing. So we'll of course keep the ANC updated as the application and the project move forward, and very much appreciate if the ANC is willing to support our application. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions and appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, all right. And are there any additional asks here beyond just support for the PUD overall?
No, just support for the PUD.
All right, all right. I will first up hear from commissioners, then we'll move to members of the public. Just as a reminder to the members of the public, you can use the raise hand feature, or you can type a question into the Q&A box. So commissioners first, anything from you all?
I do one of the almost last pictures where the folks were sitting under the, I guess that's the facade or the canopy.
Right, right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And because of the heat, is that made out of glass, or will it be some kind of shading? So if someone wants to sit under there to get shade, would they be able to have shade?
So we haven't finalized the specification of that material. I think we would most likely use glass for its durability, but we would also not use clear glass. We would use a glass that would have potentially a film or some tint. Tint is not the right word because it may discolor the glass, but a film on it or a frit on the glass. Also, I just want to say we've done various sun studies around the building, and with this court on the western side, it is quite in shade for much of the day, and then when the sun comes around the south, you will get that that western light, but then the sun drops down quite a bit. So we actually intentionally wanted the canopies to have some translucency so that it wouldn't be overshaded, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah.
All right, and then Commissioner Cobb, I saw your hand.
My question was answered.
Oh, okay, great. Anyone else? Any other commissioners? Okay, let's move on to public questions. First up, we have Kevin Horgan, and I believe he has two parts here. I love brick buildings. I even love brutalist architecture, but the proposed facades are disappointing. They read as very economical and institutional, like an 80s hospital or jail. So that is the first comment there. Can you please show the slides showing the bird's eye view again so we can take a look? So if you could actually show those slides and maybe speak to some of the,
sure.
the design decisions.
I'm gonna just go back to maybe this view, or let me talk about it on this view in particular. Thanks for the question. We love brick buildings, and we've done, I think we showed in our precedent imagery, we've done quite a few brick buildings, masonry buildings. We think brick as a choice of a material, as I mentioned, is very appropriate to the neighborhood. This sort of industrial, post-industrial architecture, as well as what you see on the campus at Gallaudet University across the street. While our buildings, I wouldn't call them all the way brutalist, but they are in some ways minimal. We don't do a lot of busy shapes. We do generally very minimal, clean architecture. We spend a lot of time during the development of the design on the details, and the detailing of the brick will be very important to us. We'll do many mock-ups and really make sure that the actual brick material as itself is enriched and celebrated as a material as itself, and would not look like maybe the brick you see on a more typical building, be it a hospital or a jail. I also want to point out that the windows are very large. The windows are somewhere between 6 feet tall by 4 feet wide. So they're large glasses, panes of glass, which will have very crisp blackened steel or darkened steel sleeves, articulations, and sills around them. So there will be another layer of materiality as well as shadow around the windows. The windows are also recessed, which gives you some depth in the reading of the facade. And I think, at first one may compare these buildings with more sort of typical buildings that one sees, but I do want to assure you that we take a lot of care in detailing and specifying the right materials and carefully drawing the details so that the building is just so and crisp and clean in it, and have a strong identity still, which is what we want for this site.
Okay.
That's
all right, thank you for that. We have one final question from Skip Keats. Are you chatting with HKS and Land Collective to align or integrate the green space across 5th Street just below Penn Street? They are building the complex bounded by 4th, Penn, and 5th. So have you had any conversation with that neighbor?
I can speak to them. We have not yet spoken, but way back when Union Market went through their small area plan, DDOT and most of the landowners in the neighborhood collaborated to develop the Union Market streetscape design guidelines to make sure that everyone is on the same page and we're all sort of bound by those regulations. So the same sidewalk widths, the same flex zones, all of that has already been coordinated for us, I should say, to an extent. But we do still talk to neighbors, of course. We just received plans from the neighbors to the south that are under construction. And that's a great reminder. We'll reach out across the street. I think they're further behind us, so I think we still have time, but we'll certainly do that as well.
Okay. All right, great. And then I would just ask if you could make sure to use the message to everyone function and include your contact information for anyone else who might have questions.
Of course.
Okay. And then, of course, I think what we'll do is we'll table an actual vote. I don't know, Commissioner Rhodes, if you agree with that assessment based on the feedback we've had this evening. And it looks like we do have enough time to still have a vote next month to give a final decision about PUD support. Yes, Commissioner Rhodes,
that'll be fine.
Okay.
She seconds that.
Okay, all right, so moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay.
And as always, because of my day job, I must abstain from matters involving zoning, planning, and land use.
Okay, great. And so also, I think in the interim, probably our zoning subcommittee will reach out to you guys for any additional conversation there so we can get a full report from them too. Okay, okay. Great. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all for tonight.
Thank you so much.
So we'll move into the final section of our meeting. First up, we have community feedback and questions. So we'll spend the next few minutes, and this is just kind of the free and open question section of the meeting. We'll spend the next few minutes on that. So if you have community announcements, this is also a good time to do that if you're here from a community organization. And then we'll move to commissioner reports and adjourn. Okay. Angel White, even though it rarely happens, have earthquake considerations been taken into account? Oh, okay, so this is regarding that property, and you've just missed them. So if you want to direct that question to them at the email addresses that they include in the chat, that would be the best way to reach out to them. Okay, and I'm going to take a look here to see if we have any raised hands. Okay. Oh, these are great questions. So Kevin Horgan, 3 questions, and you're kind of preempting some of my announcements here. 1, will ANC 5D return to in-person meetings? Yes. Or hybrid meetings? Yes. Where neighbors can choose whether they want to attend in person or via Zoom? Yes, yes, and yes. So right now, we are currently scheduled to resume hybrid meetings, I'll call them. Pray for us, because we're going to do our best to make sure that we have, all of our technology organized and are able to coordinate kind of basically having 2 meetings at once and being able to conduct meetings that way. But right now we're scheduled to do that beginning in November. If you guys remember back a few months ago, from one of Stephen's treasurer's reports, we had been robbed at our office. We bought a new camera. We did some things to kind of prepare for that, knowing that right now the council has us scheduled to go back to that in November. Okay, 2, given that ANC boundaries are changing starting in 2023, will unspent ANC funds get rolled up, returned to a general fund? So that will be the case for some commissions, but not ours. The overall boundaries of ANC 5D remain the same, as did most of the boundaries for overall commissions in Ward 5. And so we'll be keeping all of our money. There has been some risk of that, that I think a lot of us have carefully watched over the past few years, considering how much money we do have on hand, and some of the challenges we face just in terms of trying to get some of the money out the door for grant funding, because that is a very rigorous process that requires multiple reviews at different levels of DC government. So we were able to retain all of our funds. Number 3, if ANC funds are being rolled up, excuse me, does the ANC plan to commit remaining funds to community organizations before then? So that's not even a question for us, because we won't be rolled up. So we'll retain all of our funds and be able to move forward on an ongoing basis. Okay, but all really good questions. Skip Keats, query on crime. What is the mayor and council doing about the increasing number of stabbing, shootings, and carjackings along Benning Road and H Street? Another person was stabbed a week ago at 18th and Benning. I would say that those questions are best directed to the mayor and the council. So they were on earlier in the meeting to kind of discuss some of their work in the community. If you miss them, their information is still in the chat. So if you'll scroll up in the chat, you'll see their contact information, and you can reach out to Donnie Crawford and Nokomis Hunter directly. Okay. All right, and I don't see anything else, so let's move on to announcements from the commissioners. Basically, most of my announcements have been made through the questions that Kevin asked, but I do want to be a little bit more specific with you all about the fact that we have been redistricted, although the overall ANC 5D is remaining the same with a slight tweak at Mount Olivet, So we will now be including the boxing gym and the gas station on the other side of the street. Basically, we're remaining the same in terms of which residential properties are included. What we also have are 2 new single member districts. So we're now going from 7 commissioners to 9 commissioners. Union Market will have their very own commissioner due to just huge growth in that area. Excuse me. And then there will be kind of a new Bladensburg corridor district, just due to just huge amounts of growth from a lot of new apartment buildings along that corridor in that area. Each ANC commission represents about 2,000 people according to the census. For us, we're probably representing a few more than that just because there was a lot of underreporting in our area. And if you want to learn more about that, I would suggest visiting openanc.com. So that's my announcement. And you already heard about our return to in-person being scheduled right now for November. We'll see how that goes. You know, that's based on how the council votes and if there are any additional emergencies declared by the mayor. But right now, that's scheduled to expire at the end of October. So we'll go through with other commissioners. 5D01, any announcements from you?
Yes, as everybody know, OP is doing some walkthroughs through Ivy City and down, up and down New York Avenue concerning the New York Avenue Vision Framework. The mayor is proposing 30,000 units to be built within the next 20 years on New York Avenue. So anyone that's part of 5D01 is welcome to be part of those engagements with Office of Planning and also the walks. There's one walk that's going to be conducted on the 15th at 6 p.m. And we also are planning an Ivy City Day next month. I'll have more information. It was previously scheduled for the 1st, but that date has changed. So we will have DPR and OP and the Ivy City community, along with some businesses from Union Market and just local businesses celebrating the small area plan.
Okay, thanks.
One more thing. Also, we don't know the architect that will be working on Carmel as of yet. Probably by next month, we will have that information. And that's it.
Okay. All right, and 5D02.
Not too many big announcements on my end. The biggest thing that I do want to share is that Trinidad Day is scheduled to take place this Saturday, originally scheduled August 27th, but now it was rescheduled to the 17th. So feel free to come out to the rec center on 1310 Childress Street here in Trinidad between 12 and 6. We're gonna have some resources available, some food to disperse. So if you're in the area, feel free to come out. You don't have to be a resident of Trinidad. All of South Ward 5 is entirely welcome to join us. We haven't had Trinidad Day in about 4, 6, 7 years. So it's been a while, but a lot of our natives in the neighborhood wanted the return and we somehow made it work. So we're gonna have it this weekend. So feel free to come out. It's gonna be a great time. Some offices will be there. Some resources will be there. If you know anyone that needs to be registered to vote, have them come out. So it's gonna be a great time. Other than that, focusing on some traffic studies and waiting on some speed humps in 5D02. As Commissioner Moore, as Chairperson Moore did mention, 5D02 is one of the districts that will be changing a little bit with a new redistricting. So if there's any questions on that, feel free to reach out. And as always, you can reach me via email, and I'm 10 times better if you directly hit me up on the phone. I am not a computer guy, so if you need to reach me directly, please feel free to reach out. And my phone number is available on the website. So anything else, I'm available. Thanks.
Thank you for that. 5D03.
I also don't have any huge announcements. I will say that I did accept an invitation to do a walkthrough of the South Trinidad and Carver Langston neighborhood streets on Tuesday, September 20th from 9 to noon. I have a lot of concerns. A lot of my requests have gone unanswered or unacknowledged. So I am looking forward to this walkthrough with the several agencies and resources in the neighborhood. I even took off my day job just to be a part of this walk and plan because I want a lot of things addressed that I've been fighting for a while.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. I'm sure all of us do. 5D04.
The same for me, Victoria, Commissioner Victoria Moore, this said I have been invited to also the walkthrough that is supposed to be on September the 20th. And it said if it rains, it'll be September on the 21st. I also took off from my job because I still have a lot of concerns and everything that need to be addressed too. And that's just about it. I'm sorry, I got to go. The fire department is outside of my door. I don't know what's going on, but I wanted to come and make that announcement. So I'm getting ready to leave out to find out what's going on.
Okay, all right, thank you, and hope everything's well. Okay, I'm the commissioner for 5D05, same thing with walkthroughs. For me, there are a lot of concerns. We've had several lately in terms of some of these dilapidated construction projects that can't move forward due to stop work orders, which they rightfully deserved. You know, we've had a lot of conversations with those developers at this point. They're on the bad actors list for the city, and we're just going to have to move forward accordingly. So we're working through some of the legal issues in terms of handling those properties. So those are the main updates from me. 5D06 would have been Commissioner Hoffman, but as I stated at the beginning of the meeting, he resigned as of yesterday. So there won't be a representative for 5D06 again until January of 2023. 5D07.
Commissioner, can I say one thing for Commissioner, former Commissioner Hoffman's district? If, as the vice chair, for any residents that do need to reach out for anything, feel free to reach out to me. Even though I'm not obviously your commissioner, I'm still one of the commissioners in Trinidad and the vice chair for the commission. So feel free to use me if needed.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you stepping up to take over. That's very nice of you. All right, and then 5D07.
Just two things. Likewise, I am the third of three commissioners right now that represents Trinidad, and my district actually borders Commissioner Hoffman's old district. So also feel free to reach out to me for anything as well at 5D07@anc.dc.gov. And second thing is, I know at the beginning of this year, I talked a lot about the Pepco substation being demolished, and then Pepco just pulled out without notice for some reason. Well, I learned this afternoon that they are planning to start demolition on October 1st, and it'll last until mid to late November. Whether they actually will do that remains to be seen, but that is the information I have at the moment.
All right, well, thank you for that. I really appreciate all of the updates from everyone. And you can reach any of us on our ANC website. We include our contact information, anc5d.org. So you can reach us by using the information that's posted there. With that said, and all of our commissioner reports in, I move to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. And all in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting? Aye.
Aye.
Including some of my house members. And then any opposed to adjourning? All right, the ayes have it. We will adjourn until next month. We meet on the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Thanks so much.